Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, Grace, and thank you very much for your kind words as well, Saskia. And most of all, thank you to all of you all and to all the Chadwick parents who support the school. The CPA, while of course we're incredibly grateful for the gift, the financial gifts that the CPA gives, much greater than that is the gift that you all give us of the support of the school and the support of our students. I never forget the fact that Chadwick School was founded by parents. Mrs. Chadwick was a parent. She founded the school for her children and for other people's children. And the spirit with which she founded the school is alive and well today. I love your referring to the CPA as an army because that's really what it is. Highly disciplined, highly focused, and devastatingly effective. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of every student and teacher and administrator who benefits from all of your great work. So I sent you yesterday a link to a TED Talk. Did anybody have a chance to look at it? A few people. Well, I'll just give you a quick, I would encourage you to look at it. It's about 20 minutes long. It's about, the title of it is Start With Why. And that's actually how we started this year on both Chadwick campuses. CI starts about 3 weeks ahead of us in Palos Verdes. So I was over there when they started in the middle of August. And both campuses started by watching this TED Talk and then talking about why. And basically, not to ruin the TED Talk for you by giving you an abstract of it, but basically the point of the gentleman speaking, Simon Sinek, is that most people start with what or how. So if Toyota is trying to sell you a car, they'll probably describe all of the features, they'll describe how they're going to do things, but what you really need to do as an institution or even as an individual is think about why. Because people will join you not for what you're selling, but for what you believe. And that's the essence of it, is what is it that you really believe? Start with why you're doing it. He made a really great point, I thought. He said, remember, Martin Luther King's speech was not, I have a plan. It was, I have a dream. And he talked about, I believe, I believe, I believe. And that's what brought people rallying to his cause, not that he had a boring 15-point plan in order to accomplish it. So we started with why at the opening of school faculty meetings here, and I wanted to share with you some of what was said. I asked the teachers, why are you? Give us the personal why. Why are you here? Why are you at Chadwick School? I think you'd be inspired by some of what they said, and we're going to put them all on the website, but I'll share a few of them with you. I'm at Chadwick because I believe every student can learn, and every student has something powerful to contribute. As an adult working here at Chadwick, I feel valued, seen, and heard. I matter. At Chadwick, every student matters every day. Another teacher wrote, I want to challenge my students' view of the world and guide them to make their own connections. I believe students can develop a sophisticated and nuanced appreciation of their own and others' cultures. Another said, I'm a teacher because I'm inspired by the joy of learning, and I want the kids in my class to know that they belong and that they are significant. Another, an administrator, said, I work at Chadwick because I identify with Margaret Chadwick. Like her, I traveled in my early 20s, and seeing the world and the interconnectedness of the people who lived in it made me see myself as a global citizen. Preparing the children in the village to be a part of that world gives me purpose. As a mother who also taught her own children like Margaret Chadwick, I believe that building character and nurturing relationships are an essential part of the school's work and a vital component of the partnership we form with families. The pioneering spirit Margaret embodied, her excitement in investigating different ideas, and the joy she had in what she did resonate deeply with me. Why are our students here? Well, we haven't had a chance. I haven't gotten feedback yet from our students here in Palos Verdes, but we did ask the students over at Chadwick International, and they submitted their thoughts, and I'm sure they're exactly the same as our students here in Palos Verdes. So here's some thoughts from Chadwick International 12th graders. And the question was, why do you come to school? To communicate with people, to know what they think about my ideas and how they got their ideas, to be active, to get inspired. Another said, I never considered school as a place to learn. It was, for me, a place where the primary focus is to send students to good colleges and universities. Things started to change in my junior year as it passed by. Now I come to school to learn what I am capable of. Another wrote, to develop social skills by interacting with different people, to experience different things and find who I truly am, to challenge myself. Another said, school is a place where many people who have different backgrounds can come together to create a new world. Another said, to build new experiences and broaden my worldview. I come to school every day to learn new things, to share my time with awesome people, and to prepare myself for college and my adult life. School is a place where I can experiment and learn from my mistakes in a safe environment. Doesn't that sound like what we have in Palos Verdes? Doesn't that sound like what we want to have for our children? Finally, one said, to make mistakes, then learn how not to make the same mistakes again. Another said, enlightenment, sharing ideas, forming self-awareness, learning to socialize. And lastly, one said, I want to become an environmental engineer, and my dad used to joke that I would literally save the world by resolving the global energy crisis and the problems with pollution, etc. School is my first step to literally saving the world. I find that inspiring. Why are you and your children here? I'd ask you to ponder that as we enter this school year. And I would also invite you to send them to me. Send me your whys, because that's what I did with the faculty. That's what we did with the children. I would love to hear from our parents as you think about it in your families, and ask your children, why are you at Chadwick? Why do you come here? I can tell you what our faculty said, the Palos Verdes faculty. Why are Chadwick and why is CI here? Our Chadwick faculty said basically to develop in students certain traits and abilities. And the top 5, character, a global perspective and desire to change the world, being action-oriented. We want our kids to get up out of their chairs and do something, to build independence and resilience, and of course, to master our core competencies. In addition, they said to find the best in every child and nurture that and send them out into the world to effect positive change in society, to be a make-a-difference school, to create a safe and healthy environment where all are encouraged to take risks and grow, to continually push ourselves. We have a very ambitious lot of faculty at Chadwick School. And CI, of course, is here for the same reasons. My mental model of Chadwick International and Chadwick has been that of somebody rock climbing. Chadwick is the left hand, CI is the right hand, and first one hand goes up and then the other hand goes up and then the whole organization goes up. And that's exactly what has happened. CI is what Clayton Christensen would call a disruptive innovation. Those of you that are familiar with his theory, it's that you take something that you believe strongly in one location, in one market, and then you take it someplace completely different. And you build something new over there, and then eventually you bring the benefits back to the original organization. And that's exactly what has happened at Chadwick School with Chadwick International. I'll give you an example of another school that's doing it, and that's Eton College. Some of you are familiar with Eton. It's a 675-year-old school in England, possibly the best-known secondary school in the entire world, right? They have turned out 19 prime ministers of the UK, including the current one. And Eton, last year, decided to branch out. And so they did 2 things. First, they formed an academic accelerator in London with Oxford University and are looking for great new ideas in education, and they're actually going to take part of their endowment and invest it in these. And the other thing that they did, and Eton has no online presence, is they started to teach on a blended basis character education in Shanghai online to 6 different schools in Shanghai. And the reason that they did it was exactly what I just said, which is to take something somewhere that you're really good at, take it someplace else where you are not now, and learn very valuable lessons and eventually bring them back home. What did Mrs. Chadwick think was the why for Chadwick School? Well, what she wrote on the gates was this: this school strives earnestly to discover and develop the special gifts which each individual possesses. That's still on our gates. She said at another time, the purpose of this school is to habituate children to ways of living that are satisfying and worthwhile. In 1952, she said, learning to meet present problems with courage and intelligence has always been more important at Chadwick than preparation for college. We also found that a high IQ or a low IQ was by no measure an indication of success or failure in life. In 1963, she said, a strong feeling of belonging to each other and of belonging to the whole family of man develops, and once a child has grasped the concept of we as meaning old and young, rich and poor, of every color and all nations, he has found himself at home in the world. And then she went beyond that. And in her last public address to the graduating class of 1979, she said this: Now I must tell you, students of the upper school, that pioneering is by no means over. You are facing the most awesome problems that ever confronted man on this earth. First of all, we are bombarded daily with news, usually bad, from all over the world, by problems that boggle our minds. We have no choice. We are all involved. We must participate in one way or another in helping solve not just our own country's problems, but problems all over the world. And perhaps most important of all is finding our own individual way of giving. We must all search for our own talents and interests. Study yourselves, make choices, prepare to do something constructive for humanity. Which brings me to my why for Chadwick and Chadwick International and for the Rossler Chadwick Foundation, which has really developed over my 17 years, not only as a headmaster, but as the Chadwick parent. Several years ago, I stated that I thought that our goal should be to become a world-class, or to be a world-class institution. And we've been working towards that in a host of ways. But as ambitious as that is, I think I undershot the mark. My why for Chadwick is to make a positive impact upon the world by developing ethical global citizens and leaders. I think of the why Chadwick in three planes: at the level of the individual student, at the level of the school, and in terms of society and the world. And the goal that I originally framed about the school being world-class is actually developed as the individual child goes to be a service to the world. That defines us as a world-class institution. We are a private school with a public purpose, as Mrs. Chadwick envisioned. Now, Chadwick can make a difference in two ways: at the institutional level and at the student level. And fortunately, they're mutually reinforcing. What we do to help out as a school also builds the reputation of Chadwick and adds value to our children's diplomas and their educations. You've heard this morning from a variety of people talking about all the opportunities that our children have, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom. This is what the school has done over the last few years. You heard about Round Square. We're also very active in the National Association of Independent Schools, the California Association of Independent Schools, with this group of the World Leading Schools Organization, which is eaten in a number of schools around the world. The Malone School Online Network, where we teach courses online with a variety of outstanding schools across the United States. We're very, very active in organizations that foster experiential education. These kinds of initiatives by the school really are going to help our students today, and we will help them tomorrow and in the future as alumni. As you know from our emails this past Wednesday, in the future, I will be devoting a lot of my focus and efforts in these directions. Basically, what I will be doing falls into three categories. The first one is right here in Palos Verdes, which is to help build our endowment, to support outstanding programs and people, to provide better facilities, state-of-the-art facilities, to help set a long-term strategy for Chadwick and CI and the Rossler Chadwick Foundation. Think about it, I don't know if you all have ever watched roller derby. I must admit that I have. When I was a kid, there's a move in roller derby where you have two people skating along and they grab a third person, and do you know what roller derby is? They go around a track. Okay. All right, you're just pretending you don't know what roller derby is. All right. Anyway, they go around a track, and two people grab a third person, and they sling them forward. I think someone told me it's called a whip. That's what I see Chadwick and CI doing, is that together we are going to sling Chadwick forward. And that's where I'm going to be devoting my efforts going forward. And then last but not least is to continue to be a spokesperson for Chadwick in places where it is going to be beneficial to the school, with colleges, with other kinds of partners, with other schools, with organizations, where it's going to provide opportunities for our children, but also build the Chadwick brand and reputation and, frankly, the Chadwick influence. We have tremendous assets at Chadwick and Chadwick International. No, we do not have Exeter's billion-dollar endowment. No, we do not have Eaton's 675-year history and 19 prime ministers, but we do have tremendous assets of our own. First, we have really tremendous intellectual capital between our two campuses, which is phenomenal and is almost unique. And the other is that we have an approach to education that was handed down from Margaret Chadwick that is powerful and idealistic and will produce ethical global leaders if we really put our hearts into it. We know this. We've already done it in Korea in just 5 short years. We have a model that really works on 2 campuses in 2 cultures. Now I'd like to return to our primary way of making a difference in the world, and that's through our work with that individual child, which is our standard of measure. And I am betting that a lot of the whys that you have that you are thinking about while you're at Chadwick have to do with that individual child. And our goal is simply to set the highest possible standards and then recognize John Dewey's observation that education and learning take place at the interaction between the individual's internal state and the external realities. And that therefore, as a small school that gets to know children individually, we have an incredible advantage and a responsibility. As parents in a school, we need to remember that we're not trying to prepare the path for the child, we are trying to prepare the child for the path. And what does that path look like? In 2007, the new Commission on the Skills of the American Workplace presented a report called Tough Choices or Tough Times. And they identified 7 key skills, and this is talking about the future workforce. 7 keys to success. The first was, of course, cognitive skills, basically our core competencies, more highly developed than ever before. A firm grasp of the big ideas in multiple disciplines, which basically is a liberal arts education, such as our children receive at Chadwick. The ability to work in teams. You've heard from 15 different volunteers about different kinds of teams that our children get the opportunity to work on. International understanding. And I quote the report, no less important than language literacy, mathematical literacy, and scientific literacy. Our children have unparalleled opportunities to develop international understanding. Flexibility. Just go on an outdoor ed trip if you want to see flexibility. Creativity, both design and synthesis, seeing new patterns and possibilities. And I quote from the report, creativity requires both deep knowledge and technical expertise with one area and broad knowledge of many apparently unrelated areas. It depends upon being able to combine disparate elements in new ways. Thus, it relies heavily upon synthesis, the ability to see patterns where others see only chaos. It will happen only in circumstances in which the creator is allowed to fail many times in order to succeed only once. And then last but not least is innovation, which basically is acting upon creativity, being action-oriented. These skills can best be mastered at the individual level, and that is Chadwick's great advantage. It is our stock in trade. Underlying all of this is motivation. As George Bernard Shaw said, what we want to see is the child in pursuit of knowledge, not knowledge in pursuit of the child. One of the scariest observations of this report, Tough Choices or Tough Times, is that one of the clear dangers facing the United States workforce is that our children may be outworked by children from other countries who are more highly motivated. Our approach to motivation is to build intrinsic motivation as opposed to extrinsic motivation by giving the student choice, setting appropriate challenge, and giving them tremendous support. And you've seen it all the way from the village on our inquiry basis of our program, all the way up to the Apex projects that our students do in the senior year. Yesterday, I was visited by a group of 3 students, I'll just give you an example, who had taken it upon themselves to figure out how Chadwick can go solar for power. So they made a presentation in the spring. They came and visited the board's facilities committee and said they wanted to do this. They were given a little direction. They went out, they created RFPs. They then solicited proposals. They interviewed 5 different firms. They developed criteria. They checked the references. And yesterday they created an entire business plan. And yesterday they came and presented it to me in my office. I'm now going to be calling on the chair of the facilities committee. They are going to present it to the facilities committee. This is great work. And mind you, they did not receive 1 credit. They did not receive 1 grade. And they did it largely on their summer vacation. Do you think these kids think they can change the world, or at least our little part of the world? And do you think they're willing to put their effort and heart and soul into it? They absolutely are. They absolutely are. They're confident that they can. The power of setting high expectations and working at the level of the individual is certainly true with regard to developing character too. And the character that will serve mankind well will serve our individual students well too. As Heraclitus said centuries ago, a man's character is his destiny. Teddy Roosevelt put a finer point on it in a letter to his son. He said, if a man does not have an ideal and try to live up to it, then he becomes a mean, base, and sordid creature, no matter how successful. Good old Teddy had a way with words. And just as our students do amazing things academically when the expectations are high and we engage them individually, so they do in character as well. When our students voted roughly a decade ago to install or reinstall an honor code at Chadwick School, there were members of our parent body who said they couldn't do it, they wouldn't do it, children just, it's too high of a bar. And our students every single day are proving those doubters wrong. Some people think that some of our students do community service in order to put it on their resume. The fact of the matter is, if you come to Tree and Awards every year, when Becky Noble reads off the list of seniors who continued to do community service to the very last day, long after the college admissions decisions were in, you will know that our children do community service because of the good that it is doing, not just for the people they are serving, but for themselves. Ultimately, we want to develop citizens who will go out from Chadwick and who will lead. My high school's motto was non sibi, good old Latin phrase, which means not for self. We need to both model and instill that ethic, and we do. We will be a world-class institution if we devote ourselves effectively to developing ethical global leaders, one student at a time. And our students get this. They want to do great things for themselves and for others. If you don't believe me, talk to our alumni, talk to our seniors. Going back to 1953, here's what Peter Davis, a member of that class at Chadwick, said. He won the Distinguished Alumni Award a few years ago. He said, basically, what happened to me at Chadwick was that I learned to believe that all things are possible. They're not, of course, but it is nonetheless a fairly important belief, since it enables those of us who are afflicted with it to be rather persistent in trying to persuade others that the status quo is not the inevitable ordained condition of all mankind. And then come forward to the present, to the opening assembly of school this year when Chadwick's senior Jack Johnson spoke to the school community and told them that what he values most about Chadwick is the people, and specifically their energy, support, and yes attitude. And I want to read to you a little bit of what Jack said. And he said this to the entire school. Never before have I met such an energetic group. I'm not just talking about running around and cheering at sporting events, but more their ability to push everything to the limit with tenacity and enthusiasm. When someone here wants to do something, they go for it. If they hit a roadblock, they bulldoze right through it and prepare for the next challenge. And with that energy and passion comes success. Being around people like that has pushed me to do things far past what I thought was my maximum potential. We are a community. We are a team willing to work hard for every single one of our players, not for personal gain, but because we genuinely care and support each other. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the Chadwick's yes attitude. Over the last 3 years, I've learned and have held on to the essential principle of always saying yes. See, yes means opportunity. It means that anything is possible. And through my years at this school, I have found that the people here believe that. They are willing to entertain any idea, no matter how big or small. Chadwick Dolphins have the chance to make their dreams come true, and they do. Despite the fantastic attributes of the people here, we as a school always have ways to improve. This year, we must push ourselves to be the best that we can possibly be, not solely as individuals, but as members of something greater. Just as we must have pride in our own individual achievements, we must also have pride in what we do as a school. I know that 20 years from now, when I think back, I will be able to say, I am proud to be a Chadwick Dolphin. And I hope that by the time you're done, you will too. Those are the words of one of our students. Maya Angelou said, there's nothing sadder than cynical young people because it means they've gone from not knowing to not believing. Our alumni and our students suffer from no such cynicism, nor should we. You may be aware that we have developed a new sort of tagline that is think, do, lead. It's an attempt to take our mission statement and boil it down to easy-to-grasp concepts, but you'll notice that the word lead is relatively new. And it's moving forward, it's stepping forward, it's being more ambitious. But that's what we really want anyway. It's actually in the mission statement. We want people that will lead by example, whether they're the President of the United States or a kindergartner. Every single one of our students is learning to lead by example. We need to be explicit about it, and we need to be ambitious about it. You've heard of what we're doing in athletics. We're going to push forward in every direction, in every area of school life. And we have to model it as a school. We have to think, do, and lead. We need to be smart and thoughtful. We need to be strategic. We need to take action, not stand pat. And we need to lead with character. My big why for Chadwick is to have as great a positive impact upon the world as possible by influencing others and by unleashing the very best in each individual child. In doing that, we will advance as a world-class institution. You've all probably heard the observation that's attributed to Lord Wellington that the Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton. While that's obviously not literally true, and in fact, Wellington may not have actually made that statement, the fact is that it is still repeated 200 years later. And that is a sign of what we all know and deeply believe, that schools, even a single school, can truly change the world. And that is the power and promise of education. That is the big why of Chadwick, and that is our shared responsibility and our transcending opportunity. Let's give it our very best, together, today, tomorrow, and always. Thank you.